morning, students. In our today's English literature class, we are going to start from where we have left in our previous class. In this class, we are going to start chapter number 15, Running Early. Running Early is an extract taken from the novel Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. Let's start from where we have left. He ran hard for a quarter of a mile, and then it began to dawn upon him as a strange and curious thing that there were so few people about. Dawn is to recognize. He came to recognize that as I'm going forward, I'm finding very few people on the streets. What was the reason behind that it is 9 in the morning and there are very few people on the streets? And that there were no shops open. And why were the shops not open at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m.? It was certainly a very dark and foggy morning. It was very dark and foggy. But still it seemed as unusual thing to stop all business on that account. Means due to fog and darkness. It is very unusual to think that the shops were not open, very few people on the streets due to dark and fogness. He had to go to business. Why should other people stay in bed merely because it was dark and foggy? He should hurry up to go to his business. And why people should be in bed thinking that today was dark and foggy and they should not go out of the bed early. At length he reached Holborn. At length means closed by. Not a shutter was open. No door, single door was not open over there. Not a bus was about. There were no buses. There were 3 men in sight. 3 men he can see. One of whom was a policeman. Among that 3 persons, one was a policeman. There was also a market cart full of cabbages and a dilapidated looking cab. Dilapidated, not in good condition. He saw a cart not in good condition carrying cabbages. George pulled out his watch and looked at it. It was 5 minutes to 9. He stood still and counted his pulse. He stood there, took out his watch and saw the time. It was 5 minutes to 9. He was very much tense that the scene he was seeing over there was very, very surprising. Then with his watch still in his hand, he went up to the policeman and asked the time. He went to the policeman and asked what was the time. "What's the time?" said the man, eyeing George up and down with evident suspicion. The policeman was suspecting George and he was looking him very, very carefully. Why, if you listen, you will hear it strike. You can listen striking the big wall, watch. When you listen the strike, you will know what is the time right now. George listened and the neighboring clock immediately obliged. John waited and listened. The clock nearby struck. "But it's only gone 3, said George in an injured tone when it had finished. Injured, sad and surprising tone. "Well, how many did you want it to go?" replied the constable. The constable said, "How much time do you want to be it right now?" "Why 9, said George, showing his watch. He said, "It should be 9 because by my watch, according to my watch, it should be 9 a.m. "Do you know where you live?" said the guardian of the public order severely. Guardian of the public order? Policeman. George thought and gave his address. After thinking, he gave his address to the policeman. "Oh, that's where it is, replied the man. "Well, you take my advice and go there quietly and take that watch of yours with you and don't let's have any more of it. Go to your house, remove your watch and don't work according to your watch again, because it will misguide you. George went home again, musing as he walked alone, and he left himself in. And he let himself in. He went towards his home. At first, he determined to undress and go to bed again. But when he thought of the redressing and rewashing and the having of another bath, he determined he would sit up and go to sleep in easy chair. He thought that he should go to sleep because it was enough time for him. But as he thought, again he have to undress it, again wash it, so everything will be done again. So he said no, he was going to relax and sleep on the easy chair. But he could not get to sleep, but he was not able to sleep. He never felt more awakeful in his life. So he lit the lamp and go out the chessboard and played a game of chess. He lit the lamp, started playing chess. But even that did not relaxed him. So he gave chess up and tried to read. Now he left the game of chess and tried to read something. He did not seem able to take any sort of interest in reading either. He was not interested in reading. So he put on his coat again and went out for a walk. It was horribly lonesome and dismal. Lonesome, lonely, dismal, sad. And all the policemen he met regarded him with undistinguished suspicion and turned their lanterns on him and followed him about. Whoever policemen he found on the way, they all were looking at George suspiciously. They thought that he was not a good person. And this had such an effect upon him that he began to feel as if he really had done something. And this affected a lot to George, as he thought that he might have done something wrong. And he got it slinking down by streets and hiding in dark doorways when he heard the regulation flip-flop approaching. Flip-flop, the police person. Of course, this conduct made the force only more distrustful of him. And they would come and rout him out and ask him what he was doing there. And when he answered, the policeman came over there because they were suspecting him and asked what was he doing over there. Nothing. He had merely come out for a stroll. Stroll means take a morning walk. They obviously did not believe him, and two plainclothes constables came home with him to see if he really did live where he had said he did. Two white-dressed police came to his house to verify that the address given by him of his house was correct or not. They saw him go in with his key and they took up a position opposite and watched the house. They saw George entering the house and they stayed over there in a perfect position. He thought he would light the fire and make himself some breakfast just to pass away the time. He thought he will make some breakfast for him so that the time passes away. But he did not seem able to handle anything from a scuttle full of coals to a teaspoon without dropping it or falling over it. Scuttleful, a metal which contains a metal container. He thought if he was going to make a tea, spoon will fall and will make some noise or the other. And making such a noise that he was in mortal fear would wake Mrs. G up, and making a noise would wake the landlady of the house. And she would think it was burglars and open the window and call police. Then these two detectives would rush in and handcuff him and march him off to the police court. And if she shouted police, the police standing outside the house will enter the house and arrest him and take him to the jail. He was in morbidly nervous state by this time, morbidly, extremely. And he pictured his trial and his trying to explain the circumstances to the jury and nobody believing him and his being sentenced to 20 years penal stevedite. Penal stevedite, harsh punishment. He thought that he was convicted and he was sentenced to prison for 20 years. And his mother dying of broken heart. His mother died of broken heart. So he gave up trying to get breakfast and wrapped himself in his overcoat and sat in the easy chair till Mrs. G came down at 7:30. He sat over there, he left everything till at 7:30 Mrs. G arrived. He said he had never got up too early since that morning. It had been much a warning to him. He said that he has never got up early too morning in his life from that day onwards. We come to the end of this chapter. We'll proceed further in our next chapter. Till then, thank you.